Alright, hope you can hear me. Back on the Rebel. Going to work. It's I think it's December 1st, 2020. Nice day, beautiful day. Raise the camera up so you can see the road. But today's story is when I went to Cuba back in '93. I was stationed out in Virginia. I was in Cuba because a lot of Haitians were fleeing Haiti because of civil unrest or whatever, and there's a few moments of interest. But anyway, woo! Smell that sewage. But anyway, lots of little vignettes, let's say, about this trip. So we were in an auditorium having a meeting in Virginia. They call it GMT, General Military Training, and I think it was about like just body positioning, you know, how to lift things and be aware of your surroundings, stuff like that. And during one of the breaks, one of the E6s in my detachment came down through the auditorium and said, "Detachment X, we have to deploy tomorrow, so effective immediately you need to go pack up for deployment and meet back at the squadron detachment office tomorrow at 6 a.m. or something like that." So we're like, okay. I was in the squadron I was in was divided up into different detachments, or dets as we call them, and so each det had a crew of about 24 maintenance people and 6 pilots and 2 helicopters. So and I think we had 8 detachments, so that's 16 aircraft. So anyway, my detachment was assigned to go to Cuba, and so we got, you know, our, what the hell? So we got our deployment briefing, and we're told to show up at dockside the following morning at 6 a.m. So we show up, get on the boat. It was the USS Whidbey Island. It was a LST or something like that, LPD, something like that. Tank landing ship. I'll put the picture and the designation below here. So, and we get underway, and we're going from Norfolk, Virginia to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. It was about a 2 or 3 day trip, I don't remember, and it was cold. I remember that. And my job, my primary job, was to inspect the aircraft after it flew. I had special inspections that I had to do, and I was the only one in the detachment that could do what I do. But I also doubled as a airframes mechanic. So since we were just kind of riding to Cuba, we didn't really have any sorties or missions to fly, so I really didn't have to do much work, and neither did the rest of the detachment. So we were just passengers on the ship down to Cuba, and it was a pretty rough ride. So a normal day, we would get up, muster, make sure everybody was still on the ship and hadn't fallen overboard, and handle any maintenance issues that we could handle without any special tools or anything. You know, just basically visual inspection, make sure that there's no oil leaks or hydraulic fluid leaks, make sure the tires were aired up, make sure the struts were properly aired up, make sure there wasn't any, you know, make sure the ship's crew didn't damage the aircraft moving their stuff around. And so it was about maybe 2 or 3 hours worth of work every day, and then we just kind of laid around, played cards, and listened to music. We really didn't have any, you know, back in '93, we didn't have smartphones or anything like that. So, you know, we mostly slept. And I remember one morning I get up, I'm in the bathroom doing my business, and the boat was rocking pretty good. So, you know, I'm just kind of, sometimes I had to like put my arms against the stalls on both sides of me to keep from falling off the throne. And I hear the bathroom door slam open loudly. I hear 2 sets of footsteps running, and I hear the doors on the stalls on either side of me slam open, blam blam, and I see on both either side of me 2 sets of knees in camouflage pants go down on the deck, and 2 people blowing chunks. Apparently those Marines couldn't handle motion sickness very well. Now, I had deployed very many times up to that point, but I wasn't very susceptible to motion sickness too bad. And it affects different people different ways, but apparently it didn't affect me too bad. So that was one kind of funny story. So the rest of the ride down to Cuba was pretty uneventful. We get off, unload all our stuff, get loaded in, or get assigned our barracks. And in Cuba, you know, they didn't spend a whole lot of money on the place, so the barracks were pretty sparse. They were like 1 or 2 steps below our normal barracks back stateside, but they were ample. The problem was these barracks had been unused for a while, so they're kind of in a disarray. So we had to kind of freshen them up a little bit, clean them up. The mattresses were rolled up, so we had to unroll the mattresses onto the beds. And you know, I think they had a vacuum cleaner. We might have had to vacuum the floors. They didn't really have carpet per se, but they had like a rug, I think, from what I remember. So we get settled in, and one of the E3s comes running like by my room. I mean, he's like pale white, and I was like, "What's going on?" He goes, "There's something in our room, man." Like what? Like, you know, a dog, a cat, snake, what? He goes, I don't know. I was like, all right. So I go. It's like, well, let me take a look. So I go back to his room, and his roommate is like sitting on top of one of the lockers. I'm like, what the hell? I was like, what is so scary that you're sitting on top of the locker? He goes, there's a huge spider, man. So I go poking around. I find a stick or something, and I go poking around and move the beds, move some lockers, and you know, look under the dressers and stuff, and really don't see anything. So I told him, I don't see anything, so it's you know, it's safe to come down. He goes, I want to get another room, man. It's like, well, if there's a spider in this room, there's probably a spider in every room. He's like, I don't care, I'm not staying in this room. So he and plus his room for some reason was like in another wing of the barracks. Like I was in the wing closest to the main office, and his room was in the wing furthest away from the office, and I think all the rooms in my wing were empty. So I don't know why they gave him a room somewhere else. I mean, yeah, he was an E3 and I was an E5, but it doesn't really matter. You know, there's no separation when you're E6 and below, or E7 and below, as far as berthing or you know, barracks rooms. So that was another mini story. So like a couple of days later, we get settled in, and you know, we go to the base exchange to get basic things like toiletries. You know, if you forgot your toothpaste or something, or shave cream. And so after a working day, go down to the base exchange, and a couple of the guys come running up with like a case of Budweiser under each arm or in each hand, and they're just grinning from ear to ear. I'm like, oh, you got necessary supplies on it. It's like, he goes, dude, they're selling cases of Budweiser for $5 each. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Well, come to find out, it's kind of hard to describe. Formaldehyde beer, they call it. It had either gone bad or has some additive, that, you know, some preservative in it to keep it from spoiling, I guess. And it tasted worse than the regular Budweiser that you get stateside. But sailors, we don't care. We don't care. Plus, you know, it was probably under, you know, purchased under some kind of government contract, so it was probably pennies on the dollar to buy. So these guys are just getting tanked on cheap Budweiser. I didn't really drink a whole lot back then, so I didn't buy any Budweiser or any beer at all, really. That was pretty interesting. I think what I bought, and I had it for years afterwards, but you know those sandwich makers? It's kind of like a mini George Foreman grill. It was the precursor to the George Foreman grill. I'm sure they had like panini grills and stuff back then, but this was the latest craze, was those sandwich makers where you put your bread in and your meat, and you put your bread on top, and you put the lid down, and it makes two hot pocket triangles. So I bought one of those, and I was cooking everything in that thing. You know, of course, first you make the grilled cheese or the grilled ham and cheese, and you know, whatever sandwich type thing you cooked. And then I was like, you know what? I bet I can cook an egg in this thing. So I bought a dozen eggs. I think we had like a little mini fridge in our rooms. Obviously, because the guys were keeping their beer cold in those fridges. So I bought eggs, and I bought other things too, because I think we got man, it's such a blur. It's, you know, 93, been a few years. I think we had a galley. Yeah, I'm sure there was a galley on the base, and I can't remember if we mostly ate there or what. I know on now there's two sides to the base. People may or may not know. There's a leeward side and a windward side. The leeward side is where the wind is coming from, right? So if the wind was blowing, per se, the prevailing winds were blowing from west to east. The leeward side would be the west side, and the windward side would be the east side. That's where the wind was coming to. Something like that. I don't know. So every morning we would have to go take a bus, because I think the barracks was on the leeward side, and we would have to take this transport boat, one of those landing ships that you see in World War II movies. Take that to the windward side where the runway and the airbase was. But yeah, so I remember eating at the galley on the windward side, you know, during the workday. But I don't remember eating on the barrack side. Not that it didn't happen, I just don't remember. But anyway, I would cook all kinds of stuff in that sandwich maker. So another story that tied into just what I mentioned about the leeward and the windward side. We had to get up at like 5 in the morning, 4:30 or 5 in the morning, because we had to take this bus down to the landing to catch the boat to the hangar side. So, you know, we'd all gather our butts up and we'd meet at the bus stop. And the bus would take us through these winding roads down to the ship landing, or the transport landing. Missed the light. So we could go to the air base or windward side. And one morning, and these buses were driven by Jamaicans or Haitians, but they definitely had like a Jamaican accent to them, right? So, and they drove like there was no tomorrow. And we're going through winding roads, and these were regular school buses, you know, the yellow ones with no seat belts. And full size, not the short buses, full size long school buses. And they would drive like 50, 60 miles an hour on a 2-lane road with winding, twisty curves in them. And one morning we get on the bus, same routine, guys driving like a bat out of hell. And we get to the bottom of the hill, and we usually turn right, but this time he turned left. So we're like, where are we going? Well, apparently something had gone wrong with the bus, and he rolled into the bus depot, and he's yelling out the door to one of the workers in the bus depot. He says, "Hey man, hey, bus broke, man. I need another bus, man. This bus is broke." So we're like, oh, that's why we're here. So we all had to get out, get all our stuff, get our bags and stuff, and hope that we would make it to the dock landing before the transport boat leaves. And I believe, luckily, we did get there on time. But that's I'll cut it off here, and I'll continue the story of my time in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, when I do my ride home. Catch you guys later.